We've gone. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. I think we've just about got all the participants we're expecting. Rebecca, is Rebecca Riley with us? We were expecting Rebecca.
No, I will be having a chat on behalf of Rebecca because she was actually in the Brighton group, and we also have Martin from Fulfilling Lives here today. So the two of us will have a little bit of a conversation just to set the scene.
Great, thanks, thanks, Michaela. So, well, then I'll press on. My name's Elizabeth Mackey. I'm from Health Watch East Sussex. My colleague Simon Kiley is also going to. Between us, we're just going to guide you through this session. So I'm conscious we only have a relatively short amount of time and perhaps a lot of questions and discussions to get through. So have you all seen the participants list? Do you want a roll call of who's on the screen, or do you want to introduce yourselves as you speak? I think we've all got our names on the screen. Do you want to do a quick roll call? So you know, have we got anybody on audio, by the way? Nobody on audio. Okay. So if you're just happy to press on, we are still recording. The recording button is still showing live, so we are recording. Please use the chat function as well. And again, if we do get into any kind of individual examples, just to be mindful of any confidentiality issues that we might be talking about or that may come up as a result of our discussions. So we've got the big task is to come up with those 3 or 4 key points. And just to get us underway, Michaela and Kevin, Michaela from Fulfilling Lives is just going to give us a very short overview of from the clients that they support, and also Kevin, and then we will come back into trying to solve that task we've been set. So Michaela, can I hand over to you?
Sure. Hi there, everyone. My name is Michaela. I work for Fulfilling Lives at the Brighton Housing Trust, and we're mainly working with people who experience homelessness and multiple complex needs such as substance abuse, repeat offending behaviours, and at the same time also looking at health issues, mental health and physical health issues as well. So that's what we classify as multiple and complex needs. And two sort of really important approaches that we're taking in all of our service deliveries and also systems change work, which is where I'm coming in, is having lived experience as part of the service delivery and shaping service delivery, and also trauma-informed approach. And one of the things that we have recently done is talking to some of the clients that we work with and our frontline staff to look at how COVID has actually impacted on our service provision, but also on the clients. And keeping in mind that we are talking about people who might not necessarily have an address, live in temporary accommodation, experience domestic abuse, etc. as well. I just want to set some of the scenes of what we have heard back from our lived experience experts. So one of the things that came across really is that it's not, working for everyone. Digital access, obviously, not being able to have a mobile phone or not being able to have a safe space where you can access a telephone, let alone internet connections, has been a real obstacle for us. And that's where our frontline support staff have been really crucial to help people access those services. And it's been really interesting to hear the findings about, the research that has happened through HealthWatch, and obviously as well, that there is digital exclusion, and the people we are working with who have multiple complex needs might have fallen through the cracks sometimes, unfortunately, when we talk about digital support for mental health services. Our clients really value face-to-face work, and the frontline staff have been crucial in that, even throughout the pandemic, when other services have taken away that face-to-face work, they still have reached out, tried to find people, have conversation on the doorsteps, you know, with safe distance, obviously, as well, which has been really valuable, because sometimes for our clients, phone calls, if you're having, you know, psychosis, for example, might not feel real. And we will need to be very mindful of that, obviously, as well. But it's been really positive as well for our staff members to have that joint approach and this sort of part face-to-face, part digital approach. And one size doesn't fit all, but I think coming up with solutions together and making sure voices of our clients are being heard in the way forward is really important, because I doubt that they have been reflected in some of the presentations earlier today, especially when it comes to having questionnaires done online, which is quite difficult. So one route into services isn't necessarily working, but the way we sort of hope things are going forward is by listening to people. And I want to just check with Martin, my colleague from Fulfilling Lives, that I've set the scene okay and well enough, or if you would like to contribute to any of this as well. Martin, can I hand over to you?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's very much the case that we found. My name's Martin. I'm a project consultant with Fulfilling Lives. So what I do is I handle our volunteering platform. So these are all volunteers that have lived experience of multiple complex needs. Okay. And we found quite similar with them. And just like your data showed earlier, that it's really those with the heaviest disabilities or those with most complex health needs that find it harder to engage digitally. We've seen this kind of reflected slightly in our volunteer program as well, but again, we've seen massive benefits to it as well. Some people that really need that continuous engagement, that to ensure that they have that through digital means makes all the difference in the long run. So having that flexibility, we found, is most important.
Yeah.
For not only the people providing the support, but the people receiving it as well.
Yeah, I think two things I wrote down, Martin, from the first session, which I think you've both covered, and want to bear in mind when we do get onto those discussions, is digital poverty and digital divide. So I think if we keep a mental note on that. Martin, I'm very conscious of time, and I just wanted to give a couple of minutes over to Kevin, as we'd previously agreed. So are you okay if we move on to Kevin?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So I'm Kevin Rosario Johnson. I work for Health in Mind, which is the primary care talking therapy service for East Sussex. You will have seen us pop up on the top of the league in Beth's presentation as the people who are using Attend Anywhere the most in those stats. I mean, I think in contrast to the contributions from Michaela, when she was mentioning about how people with the most complex difficulties are often the ones that are more difficult to engage with. I mean, as a primary care service, we find that obviously our client group is probably more able to engage. They're often you know, at work and in full-time work, or and commonly access our service by telephone anyway, as it's just more convenient in terms of access. I think the thing for us is very much a question of scale. So just to give you a sense of that scale, we're about 230 staff just for East Sussex. We get about 17,000 referrals every year. Ordinarily, that's about 60 to 80 new referrals every day. So very busy, very large service. And the scale of it, obviously, as Beth shared in a Sussex Partnership Trust, we had to rapidly move to Attend Anywhere as a platform for our one-to-one interventions, and that's also enabled access to some people with interpreters as well, which is great. We had to transform our course program from community venues to go to webinars, and we've used that quite interesting way. Sometimes we've done that as live webinars, sometimes we've done that as pre-recorded stuff, so we've actually got sort of pre-recorded video courses that people are engaging with. And by and large, people have adapted to that transition well. There's a lot of extra work for the service itself in terms of the rollout, the guidance documents for staff, the additional digital administration stuff like sending out links and invitations, and how do you gather in those kind of questionnaires and measures to monitor how people are doing. How do we manage risk when we're not in the room with someone and picking up in those signs? So there are lots of implications for the service itself. As everyone else has been saying, we know it's not for everyone, of course. Just to give you some stats, since March, our service has delivered 5.8 thousand attend anywhere one-to-one consultations, and that's compared with 16,000 telephone appointments. So it's still about sort of 70% telephone that people are opting for it. So people are declining it for various reasons, just some that they'd rather just have telephone. There's a very small minority for us that are choosing to wait for face-to-face, although we do discourage that, because waiting for how long we don't know. So we are encouraging people to access treatment, because the majority of people do have a telephone, and clinically, and from the studies have shown that telephone support is no less effective than face-to-face. It's just a way of engaging with it. So the courses is slightly different. The challenge with courses is the dropout rate. So there tends to be issues around the kind of dropout rate. On the one hand, there's a drop off at the first session, but then throughout the course as well. So it's trying to keep people engaged is a real challenge, and we're constantly working on that in terms of improving the sort of connection and relationship we're building with people prior to the course starting, so they're confident to access it. Generally speaking, the people that have used the video consultations have it's worked really well for them. We also have long delivered online treatment platforms. There's a thing called Silver Cloud we use, which people have found useful, and we've expanded that massively as well. Whilst I say that it's not for everyone, I say 20% of those that are coming in are opting for that video work or the online work. There's probably more with the courses. I think that what we also know is that East Sussex is a big patch. I think whilst it's not for everyone, and we're obviously eager and itching to get back to a face-to-face offer, I think there's also a sense from our service that having some of our courses online and having some of our interactions online is actually enabling access for lots of people who previously weren't accessing, in terms of rural areas and things like that, because the venue for the course we were delivering was 40-minute rural drive away for someone, when actually they can access it from the comfort of their own home. So I think there's kind of pros and cons to it. As Beth said, we're keen to carry on it, certainly not drop away once face-to-face is possible again. We, as a service, we have always been very much kind of aligned with telephone and online interventions anyway. So I think it's just put a rocket under the implementation of the direction of travel for us anyway. But we obviously we know that it's not for all. So that's a bit of a kind of experience from our point of view. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. That was really, really useful, and some good starting blocks for, I think, for the task that we've been set. So what are the 3 top issues that the VCS and statutory services can address to help develop digital solutions in mental health care? So it's over to you to kind of get that going. Obviously, both Michaela and Kevin, and what we heard in the first session, have presented some pros and cons where it is working for people. But what do we need to do to address that and develop those digital solutions going forward for mental health care? Anyone want to kick us off? Or Simon, do you want to add? Oh, sorry, Michaela.
Just to kind of like follow on, I think what we need to be mindful is there are a diversity of people out there, and it's not just necessarily serving the masses, but also making sure that the people who are the most vulnerable as well are heard and are included in that process. And I completely understand that sometimes it is about making sure most people are getting the service, but what about those that potentially already are excluded from healthcare services for one reason or another, and how to how to support them to access it, and whether digital is the way forward or whether there is a need, whether it's for GP surgeries and their receptionists to encourage people not just to go online as well, but actually have a conversation with support workers or the clients to find out what works best and be very person-centered. That will be a very important step, I think.
Yeah.
I think kind of on that point, Michaela, if people don't mind me coming in, I think that's one thing that, I guess, the complexity of this, there's the kind of practical nuances, isn't there, making sure someone has access to a kind of system to even begin to access, you know, this online world, the virtual society, these alternative avenues of communication. But it's not just the practicalities of getting that set up, it's how does that feel safe? How, you know, how do you create an environment still that, you know, is not gonna, what's very apparent from our services work is, you know, you can't replicate face-to-face one-for-one. It's not quite the same. But, you know, for some people, it can feel safer. For some people, it feels less safe to start with. But by working on having avenues to have a conversation and explore that, it can become safe and it can become effective. And, you know, our client groups certainly by default were like, yep, great, let's get online, woo, brilliant. The people were terrified and they felt there was a sense of threat, and people had like the home environments to consider if they were going to be in an online therapeutic group. So we had to have all sorts of conversations around, you know, around group boundaries. Like we came up with group boundaries as a collective, and part of that was an agreement that we'd have to work with people to develop confidence to have their camera on, because members being able to see each other when talking about potentially triggering topics was very important in terms of members feeling that the people they were talking to felt safe, the person talking was safe, the group was safe, in terms of knowing that there was a private environment kind of protected for group confidentiality. So it's the you know, it's the physical barriers. How do we give people access to technology like laptops or phones if they're connecting through those channels? But then how do we present those options and explore those options with the communities we're working with, so that they feel safe and able to be a part of that, and that they can express what those, you know, what the barriers are for them mentally and emotionally, so that they can then overcome those barriers with us. That's one thing that stood out to me about the process.
Yeah. And just, sorry, I don't want to overtake this, but it's quite exciting, you know. And on this as well, you know, if every single service has got their own way of delivering a service digitally, how, in terms of the bigger picture, how is the support package for our clients being, however, also lined up together? So not that it's not going into this silo working, but how is the support seeing in a more joined up way? And that is a question I don't have an answer to. If every single person is having potentially a person who's delivering a mental health support in one platform, substance abuse recovery on another one, working with a social worker on another one, having a GP on another side as well, how does that all fit together? And that's a big question, I think, for me, that I don't have an answer to, but I'd like to explore.
Okay. So, and I think earlier on,
part of that is with the
sorry.
Part of that is with the ICS and the healthcare partnership, drawing together many aspects of care under an umbrella, which is trying to break down those silos and for people to get sight of who would be better to deliver what. So bringing in drug and alcohol or neurodiverse voluntary sector organisations to deliver certain things, and also maybe help each other by cross-cutting learning off of each other, I think is really, really important, Michaela.
Sorry, Liz, I just wanted to flag Kenny's had his hand up and he wanted to come in.
Okay, sorry, Kenny. Yeah, I wasn't doing a very good job at keeping an eye on that. So apologies, Kenny. Waving on screen also helps as well. So
I'm not sure how many people can see. I only see 3 people you see at the top.
Oh, okay.
For me, I think the strategy really needs to kind of start at the very, very roots, that we really consider how all of the different opportunities link together. You know, if there's a web-based presence or or how people set up their services. You know, for instance, Kevin's IAT area, any online tools by, say, the Recovery College, any areas from SPFT for online tools or self-help tools and groups, etc. It all needs to talk to each other. I think, you know, even in the basic context of us having this meeting, some people get on well with Zoom, other people get on well with Teams. I think that is something that really needs to be straightened out from the start before it gets too far into the minutiae of who and what and how everything's available. And I think it's important that we flag that up as a real main primary objective, because everything else that we're talking about, which is fantastic, by the way, some of the initiatives and the way that people are working are really, really inspiring, aren't going to work unless we get that fundamental front end of it sorted out. So I think it has to be a system that talks to each other's small groups and can piggyback potential online courses and groups and be responsive to maybe local needs if there's a small group that might be able to start. So, but it really does need to carry the weight that everybody can use that one platform or operating system or web-based, really. And then absolutely 100% agree with everything that's been said today. It's really, really encouraging to hear this.
Thank you. Thanks, Kenny. Simon?
Yeah, I just wanted to come back on that. I think I wholeheartedly agree with Kenny's points. And just really wanted to pick up on a couple of things that Nathan said in his presentation and Michaela's flagged as well. I think it's about, you know, what are those cross-cutting priorities and also cross-cutting commitments that people can make. I think that's the thing, you know, different service providers all operating in slightly different realms with different systems. For me, I think it's trying to draw out what those strands are that people can collectively commit to. I think Nathan picked up on a couple of things I think we've identified in some of our own work around user expectations and being very clear on communications to make sure that people are fully aware of how and when they can access different things and where they can actually get support from other people from. And then I think the big thing that seems to have come out from all of the presentations this morning and lots of the work that Healthwatch in Sussex has done collectively, and I know other partners have as well, is around that commitment to choice. And I just wonder whether those are some of the things that maybe we could think about proposing from this group about, you know, a collective commitment to retain choice in terms of how people access things. I know it sounds fairly fundamental and basic, but I think it would be quite valuable maybe. And then the other thing is around you know, a pledge from all parties. So both about user expectation, but also practitioner expectation. And I think a commitment to stick to certain prescribed approaches. So, you know, to stick to time, to be very clear about what will and won't be considered. And I think to come back to that thing about safeguarding, really about people feeling very comfortable in using certain environments. So I suppose those are just some reflections from me based on what I've heard today and the context we come from.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I will get the hang of this. Sometime, maybe next year. Does anybody else that we haven't heard from? I know there's some activity going on in the chat, which is good. So please do keep that coming. But anybody else want to add anything that we haven't heard from your perspectives? I mean, I was particularly interested, Michaela, I think something you alluded to about obviously the people who experience the poorest health outcomes and social care outcomes, who's kind of missing, which groups in those communities are we not hearing from that we maybe need to be reaching out to?
I was just going to talk about that slightly as well, because that interests me in terms of, you know, there's one thing about actually once people arrive at a service, what kind of means of accessing the service are they comfortable with and would like to proceed with, whether it's digital or something else. But there's obviously a barrier at an earlier stage in that people are not referring in because of the perceived method of delivery, perhaps, or that then, you know, I guess the example with Health in Mind is that almost all of our referrals currently are coming from an online self-referral, because people are not going to the GP. And the GP referral would ordinarily take up about 40% of our source of referrals, but people are not going to the GP in the same numbers. They're certainly not going for discussion about mental health difficulties. So there's a big suppression of demand that's coming via that route. And the alternative is obviously that people do an online self-referral, and that's not going to be open to lots of people. So there's something about kind of how is all of this preventing people even referring full stop, let alone how they access the help. That feels really important to me.
Definitely agree on that. And the sort of element is, if we're only looking at mental health, again, it is one area. If we're then talking about, you know, the trauma that has happened before that, if we're then talking about temporary accommodation, and all of that contributes. But one of the things I'm quite conscious of is that people are having a multitude of things going on in their lives, and
Yes.
mental health is one of them. The people we are working with have had, you know, multiple traumatic experiences and are not necessarily picked up by traditional types of services, and having the sort of energy and the courage to then reach out and look for help, and help only being digital or predominantly digital, that is a real obstacle, you know, to then actually ask for help. And that in itself is something where, yes, it's all great, you know, that services are adapting, and I think we've all shown resilience and we've all shown creativity in how to support people. But the sort of first stepping point is, if you don't have a phone or internet access, how do you get help in a pandemic at this moment in time? So I feel we need to go one step further and further back to actually look at access before looking at how the digital services are being delivered for the most vulnerable.
Yeah. I think it also links back to Kenny's point, which is about providers working closely together. And so for us, you know, doing stuff on our website or sending out stuff to go on other people's website is of no value to people who are not looking at websites. So we, you know, there's a need to kind of engage with other organisations that people are making contact with because they've already got existing relationships with them, be it support organisations in various guises, so that there is a pathway of providers working together to make sure people are getting the help from the right sources. Yeah,
absolutely, definitely. And it's that looking at what are those forums, you know, is this the right forum for it?
It's a forum, yeah,
it's a forum, you know, and it's looking at, okay, what else is out there that we really need to respond to the needs, especially for the client groups that we're all working in, and are the systems ready for that, you know, or are the systems, if we're talking about statutory organisations, for example, as well, are they trying to change nationally, or is it again, you know, the local needs, and how do you approach that if systems sometimes might not necessarily be fit for purpose?
Okay. How are we doing for time, Simon? What time are we due to? Are we going to get jettisoned out of here, or?
I'm not clear. I think we just keep going.
Oh, we'll keep going and until we get a prompt. Okay, thanks.
I was wondering, you know, how we can achieve more joined up working between community and voluntary sector organisations, and, you know, the kind of wider sector. So, you know, I'm someone who's been really pleased to come along today and to meet people from across the sector, but I'm working in a community voluntary sector organisation, and we're specifically working with young men. And it's, you know, how do we join up those dots? And, you know, okay, I can give a plug for our project right now, but I'd be interested in, how we kind of establish more kind of meaningful, ongoing, long-term relationships where we can refer back and forth and so on. And I wouldn't currently know how to do that. Hello, I'm Marina, by the way.
Hi, Marina. I was just going to say, which organisation are you from?
So I'm working for Audio Active, particularly coordinating Rim to Rant, which is a mental health intervention for young men 16 to 25 through support groups, which run through the medium of rap, spoken word and lyric writing.
Sorry, Mariana, can you repeat what the intervention was? I
Sure.
lost.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll put a link in the chat. It's called Room to Rant.
Brilliant.
And it's for young men 16 to 25 who would need mental health support, but as we all know, would be unlikely often to access it. So we provide support groups, both in person and online, through rap, spoken word and lyric writing. But we also have a full-time counsellor on board, and often they reach a stage of saying, well, now I'm therapy ready, and they can access counselling through our in-house counsellor, or, you know, we link them in with other services. But my sort of challenge is kind of how do I link in more widely to the sector? And I'm only sort of 2 months in post, and we've just started in Eastbourne, which is why I've joined the East Sussex group. But it's, you know, coming from that perspective of working within a community voluntary sector organisation, it's, well, how do we make all of these links with the other services, and how do we let them know that we're there to offer support for clients that it might be relevant to refer to us, but, you know, who are the right services for us to refer to? So I don't know what there is in terms of kind of hub and networking and other opportunities like today to make those links more effectively.
And I think, obviously, I mean, that is one of the aims of this Sussex-wide project, is to bring together, as it suggests, is to connect those organisations with statutory partners, but also with each other as well. And certainly, I mean, as Health Watchers, we have information and signposting services, so people are contacting us. So it helps us grow our knowledge bank and to be able to get people to the right services. So good to see you. And is your project, and you say Eastbourne, is it county-wide or just a specific area?
The project has been running for 3 years in Brighton and really thriving. And thanks to Comic Relief, we're now funded for 3 years to expand across Sussex. So our East Sussex base is in Eastbourne.
Fantastic.
But actually, due to COVID, we're running that one on Zoom, and we're looking for sort of referrals to come in and engage with that digitally. But we're also in a couple of sites across West Sussex.
Great, thank you.
Any ways to connect and is just so valuable, of course. So
send us out that link. That'd be great, Mariana. In the first instance, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions coming up in the chat. So do you think we are somewhere? I know we're not going to solve the problem in 45 minutes or even longer, but are we anywhere near to coming up to kind of agreeing top three or four possible solutions we want to put forward? I don't think we're going back to the main group and having a feedback, so I think we are recording them and making a note of them and then sending them back to David. So from the notes I've been capturing, there is obviously, I think, as Simon pointed out and made some really pertinent points about that commitment to choice, to retain that digital solutions don't work for everyone. So it's how we look beyond that to make sure those people who want to access services can access in a way that meets their needs as well. So there is something around that choice for me. And again, Kenny's point, very valid, starting at that really grassroots levels, that platform, that technology, being consistent and accessible where where services are offering that as a choice. And something about that, the patient, the user and practitioner expectations. That's kind of where I'm leaning to. Is anybody different views or want to offer anything else into the pot or elaborate on any of that?
I think there's the kind of provider partnership working to reach people who are
yes, of course, yeah,
who are not able to actually make a referral full stop currently.
Yeah.
That feels really important. And just a kind of little funny aside on the point around choice, I think that actually goes both ways, because what we found, as Beth mentioned, sometimes the dissatisfaction with online is higher amongst clinicians than it is with the clients accessing the service, and there's certainly been our experience that sometimes, if a clinician experiences a dodgy reception or dodgy connection on a video call, for example, they're just as likely to not want to do it again as the client, and so you get a tailing off of offering that choice. And so I think that's, maybe because we're working at scale, but I think there's the kind of service's own responsibility to ensure that choice is there, and doesn't actually just get restricted in the first place, because some people will want to access digitally.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to capture that. Anything else, Simon? Is there anything that you've picked up that perhaps I've missed? And then I'll come to Michaela.
I think you can go straight to Michaela. I'm more interested to hear what others have got to say.
Okay, all right, Michaela.
I think one of the key priorities is also looking at whatever solutions we are coming up with, including lived experience voices, and being an advocate for lived experience voices to make sure it works for them. That would be one of the key priorities for me.
Yeah.
Lived experience.
I think that's where just to add to that, I agree that's where the surveys from Healthwatch are hugely valuable, and other people's kind of evaluations that have been presented today, because like Nathan's as well was really helpful, because I think for us, certainly, we're working at such scale, it's very difficult for us to do that kind of user experience evaluation in the same way that a smaller service might be able to do. So I'll be looking to kind of hear from people's feedback and learning from others' experience as much as anything else.
And I mean, not wanting to put anybody on the spot, but Catherine, I know you've been doing some digital inclusion workshops locally. Are you hearing similar things? Is Catherine still with us? Probably not, but I know there has been some workshops happening over in Hastings area, I believe. So I'll try and touch base with Catherine when she is able to get online. I know she messaged saying she has a few tech problems.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
I was just going to say, I've been going to those digital groups, which have been really good. I was just going to add, as part of Kenny's point, and I know it's trying to squeeze lots of things into 3 very long items, but something around organisations sharing, not just the service user feedback, but also good practice. So I think there's a lot of quite innovative work in terms of what's delivered, and I think that will grow and develop, and we shouldn't all be reinventing the wheel. So something about mechanisms and a promise to try and do that might be part of that sort of the Kenny's overarching working together.
Okay, thank you. Just bear with me 2 minutes. I've got that's it. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah or Sarah? Sarah.
Sarah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good. And Catherine has just put a note in the chat to say her sound isn't working properly. But yeah, they too are hearing similar things. So I think that's Kirsty. Hello, Kirsty.
Hello. I just wanted to say, similar to what Kevin was saying around maybe clinicians wanting a choice in whether to use it or not. But I think with regards to the training, it's really key, not only for the people accessing the support, but for the staff delivering it. Because what we found from some of our services is that even clients that are resistant to using and developing maybe further digital skills, the staff that are more confident themselves and have better maybe knowledge and confidence have better outcomes of developing that than those staff who potentially maybe don't have as much experience or don't feel as confident in being able to encourage. And I think sometimes if we're not confident ourselves, the way we talk about something may not be in positive words, and that can also influence how maybe people are feeling about it. So
yeah, absolutely agree with that.
Mm.
Thank you.
And I think there's also a point being made in the chat about how staff during online consultations keep themselves safe as well, because even though you're not physically in the same room with a person, I think there is some element of concern there around keeping safe online for both parties on that one. So I'm just looking to see if we've got any more contributions coming in. All right.
Elizabeth, is there any chance we can all just say hello and where we're from? That would be really useful for me.
Yes.
I want to say at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, do you want to kick us off then, Kenny?
Okay. I'm Kenny Mackay. I'm Strategic Commissioning Manager for East Sussex and deal mainly with third sector and community development. So that's my remit.
Thank you. And Marina, you've introduced yourself. Kirsty, do you want to just say?
hello, I'm Kirsty from Southdown. I'm an operations manager for some of our mental health recovery services.
Thank you. Tara.
Hi, I'm Sarah Candler. I work with Kenny, so mainly on community mental health and also a little bit in dementia services.
Thank you. And Nathan, we've heard from you. Louise. Hello, Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise Patmore. I'm the participation programme lead for the Sussex Healthcare Partnership, which is our integrated care system across Sussex.
Hi. And Steve.
Assuming I'm the only Steve on the list, there's usually two of us. I'm Steve Hipper-Brown. I'm the Director of Operations for Southdown. So Nathan and Kirsty's services come over in my division.
Okay, nice to meet you, Steve. Simon, do you just want to quickly say
Simon
hello?
Kiley. Oh, go on. Sorry, I was going to say Evidence and Insight Manager at Healthwatch East Sussex.
Thank you. And Kevin, you introduce yourselves. Carla,
Yeah.
Hi, Carla.
Hi, I'm Carla Hawkins. I'm the Social Prescribing Project Manager for East Sussex Social Prescribing Pathway. I'm also employed by Southdown. I'm doing a piece of work at the moment with the NHS digital team where we're looking at outcomes and also the digital database for social prescribers within either the voluntary sector or primary care. So it's just quite interesting to hear where you're developing in this area and also how at sort of SHCP level things could maybe be connected up a bit better across primary care and voluntary sector services.
Okay. Thank you, Carla. Nice to see you. Martin.
Hiya, I'm Martin. I'm a project consultant with Fulfilling Lives, same place as Michaela, and I work with the service user engagement team. So I help our volunteers interact with the project and feed into systems change work.
Great. I think we probably have met once, I think, Martin. I can't see your videos on, but yeah, welcome.
We set it a few times. It's just
yeah.
Today.
And Catherine, I don't know if you've still got sound problems, but do you want to, are you going to put something in the chat? Hopefully you're still hearing this session. And Tanya, you've put something in the chat as well of introducing yourself. So is that everybody on the screen? That's a really good cross section of from across the county. So is there anything else that anybody wants to contribute? Have we covered everything? Did we get to the bottom of who's missing, not only from a service user perspective, but also you know, from organisations as well that we could reach out to? There's a parallel conversation going on around connecting more voluntary community sector organisations as well, and that would help. And particularly, Carla,
sorry, you overlapped.
It's okay. Louise.
Yeah, for me, it's connecting with some neighbourhood groups and some of those sort of localised diverse groups, as well as drug and alcohol services and neurodiverse. Getting different mix into the room, as Tanya's pointed out a few times, I guess, because it's not necessarily about one organisation doing everything. It's about knowing what other people are doing and really linking in, and also just sort of doing stuff, actually start modelling what it is we're trying to achieve as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did I see another hand up? No?
I was just going to say something, that's all right, just about health in mind. I guess it's just a note to say that as well as dealing with all the coronavirus and all this digital shift, as an IAP service, we are also tasked with expanding quite rapidly to meet an expected kind of surge in demand and also higher levels of prevalence than were originally calculated when IAP was kind of set up. So we are expected to grow. Our workforce is growing quite rapidly, and it's really just to say that if there are any organisations here that want to find out more about what we do and how to refer in, I'm very happy to go out and talk to your teams and update you on that and see how we can work together.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And of course, what I was going to say as well, Carla, obviously through social prescribing, how has that been working during the pandemic? Are you picking up more people through that avenue? Because you're working closely with GP practices as well.
Yeah, so it's social prescribing across the county has been used in sort of different ways to respond to COVID. So I know Kirsty's here from Community Connectors, but social prescribers have been used to make contact with the shielding list as well and to provide some ongoing support around that. But again, the digital challenge, obviously it's been the same with everybody, where normally maybe people would be seeing them face to face in the GP practices or face to face out in the community. So there's been the digital challenge of ensuring everybody has access to the GP systems, because all their contact sessions are updated on the GP database. So they're the sort of tricky issues we're looking at the moment, so that across East Sussex we've got a bit more consistency for accessing the GP systems and capturing the outcomes data and that sort of connectivity. There are some different providers that I'm exploring, specifically for social prescribing with NHS Digital. And I think the key thing for the pathway is about, it's not just thinking about everything at the initial interface, so at referral points or at that sort of clinical capturing that information. It is about that full pathway and that full journey of connecting onto, whether it's a small group in the local community, but how they're sort of captured as part of that. And I think that's a big piece that's missing in terms of the voluntary sector representation, I think there. So that's definitely something to explore and see how that can be connected up as you go through, rather than just at that initial sort of stage with referrals.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I've just received a message from the Health Watch team, Brighton and Hove, who are hosting, to say, can we start to wrap up? So I think we've got at least 3 or 4 of those key things that we will go and put forward. I think from a notes perspective, Sue from our team, hi Sue, Sue's been taking some notes as well. So I think they will all get shared with you, is the plan. And there will be another sector connector forum coming up in the new year. So I'm guessing before that you will have sight of the the notes from here. And, you know, the intended outcomes, as David said at the beginning, it is to share with the integrated care system. So I guess that's the pathway. I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what happens beyond this. So I'm kind of winging this little bit at the moment. But there will be another Sector Connect forum, and it will have another theme. But no doubt, you know, the digital theme will stay with us, because it is going to be part of the new ways of working. So it's been really valuable to hear just a snapshot of your insight today. So thank you very much for coming along. Hopefully we can keep the connections going. That is one of the aims of this joint work as well. We can not only keep it going, but we can grow the network as well, to take these matters forward and keep those connections going, and just keep that user feedback coming in, especially from the groups that we don't traditionally hear from, you know, through any other methods. So thank you very much for all your contributions. I'm sure someone will get back to me if I've not communicated accurately next steps. I'm sure you'll hear about that. And it has been good to meet you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
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 I'm still here while I just copy some contacts out of the chat before it.
Okay. Yeah.
Elizabeth,
Absolutely.
are we leaving the room, or are we leaving the meeting?
I'm not sure whether when we leave this room it'll bounce you back to the main webinar. I don't know. Simon, do you know?
I thought we were told that there was no plenary wrap up at the end.
Okay.
So but you never know, Kenny. You might
it's just that
appear somewhere else. I can't.
It's just there's two buttons, you know. I don't.
Yeah.
So I'll leave the meeting. Thank you. Nice speaking to you
All
all.
right, Kenny.
Bye.
Nice to see you again. Bye bye. Bye. Okay, I think that's it. We're gone. We've probably finished a bit earlier than some of the.
Yeah, I think it's all right. I think it was good.
Was our